Hello everyone, this is Alex. Welcome to Burton Land. I thought for this video I might as well just dress down just to give my own personal opinion. So I'm just wearing my It Was His Hands jumper right now, and it's pretty much what I wore all of the day that Wednesday premiered. I didn't realise that it was going to be all released on Netflix all at once, so I was like, okay, this is going to be a binge watching day for me. So yeah, this is pretty much what it looks like throughout the whole thing. So okay, so my review on what, first off, I do want to say that I have been waiting and waiting and waiting for a new anything from Tim Burton, especially with, you know, the pandemic, being in lockdown and all this sort of thing, and just being, you know, right now. So I was like, I need some new Tim Burton in my life. And when I found out that Wednesday was happening, I saw the trailer. I was like, oh my god, this looks absolutely perfect. Tim Burton and the Addams Family. I mean, yeah. But also I was slightly nervous because this is obviously the first time he's done television, obviously, I didn't know how it was going to, as I said, I didn't know it was all going to be released at once. Obviously I knew there were other directors, so he wasn't directing every episode and all this sort of thing, so obviously, this is kind of new territory. So I was wondering how it was going to go. So, as his debut in television, how does it go? Well, I think what I'm going to do for this video, I'm just going to do my opinions on the whole season 1 as it is. I'll try and keep it as spoiler-free as possible. If anyone would like me to dive into the season episode per episode, then please comment and let me know. Okay, it's hard to know where to begin. So, okay, first off, I think I should talk about the casting. Brilliant. Jenny Ortega. I honestly think she's probably my favourite Wednesday. As much as I love Christina Ricci as Wednesday, I even like, what was her name? I think it was like Lisa Loring, maybe? Someone can probably remind me. Who played Wednesday in the black and white TV show. As much as I love those two, I even actually like Chloe Grace-Moretz as Wednesday in the animated films, even though they are not good films, but I thought she was a good choice, and I thought, she was the best part, at least her voice. Wasn't a huge fan of the writing for Wednesday in those films, but but yeah, I think Jenna, excuse me, I can't speak today, Jenna Ortega, I think honestly is probably my favourite Wednesday to date. I loved Gomez and Morticia. It's a shame they weren't in it that much because I was loving them. Same with Pugsley, I guess, but I'm not huge into Pugsley, so that didn't bother me as much. Thing, this is definitely my favourite Thing. I felt like this one had the most personality out of all the Things that have been in Addams Family, and I just love the idea of having him look a little bit more world-worn and like, and with all the stitches and everything, it's almost like, yeah, he's been around for some time, and you can almost like put like a whole story together. I think the first time I ever saw him with the stitches, I was kind of like, do you think maybe he was like originally attached to Frankenstein's monster, but only the hand got resurrected and escaped? I don't know, I came up with this whole thing like maybe that was his origin story, who knows? But yeah, no, the casting was great. New characters were also great. So yeah, and I liked the ideas of the cliques being different types of monsters and all this sort of thing. It was interesting to see sirens in something, because usually you get like vampires, werewolves, and all that. So I liked that, and people with telepathic powers, visions, that sort of thing. So that was very interesting. I think the monster in this show clearly a Tim Burton sketch. As soon as I saw it, especially the eyes, I was like, oh yeah, that's come out of his sketchbook, all right. In fact, there's a moment where there's like a huge bunch of like pictures with the monster, trying not to spoil it so much, and I was trying to keep an eye out if one of those sketches was a Tim Burton sketch of the monster. I couldn't find it. I'm wondering if anyone else had clocked it, or if it is there. Maybe I need to go back and maybe watch it. The look, just absolutely amazing. I mean, it's Tim Burton, of course it looks amazing. Oh my god, the design of Nevermore, like, trust me, I went to boarding school. I wish my boarding school looked like that. I wish my dorm room looked like Wednesday. Like, that was phenomenal, especially with the stained glass and then the put in half and everything. I'd certainly be on Wednesday's side of the room, let's be honest. Music, of course, Danny Elfman, great. I especially loved that whole scene where Wednesday's just playing the cello and the other characters are sort of listening in, and it was a great moment. So I really liked that. And it's because you're going through a whole series. It's different from a movie. It was great to see Christina Ricci as well, and it was great that she was playing a whole different character, like a really different character. It never felt like she was overstaying her welcome, never felt like she was overshadowing it, you know. So I think her moments between just her and Wednesday, I think it was kind of nice. It was like, you know, passing the torch on to the next Wednesday. So I really liked that. I really loved all the literature references. So obviously Nevermore is very Edgar Allan Poe orientated, and there's this whole thing about a contest and the Poe Cup, and they were all related to different Edgar Allan Poe stories, and I thought it was very clever. Obviously the statue of him and everything, so yeah, it was very linked to that. There's a whole bit that's to do with Frankenstein, which I thought was really cool. I love the line that Wednesday says. It's like, yeah, she's both my hero and my nemesis. So that was a good line. Yeah, so when it comes to watching the whole thing as a series, I ended up, this is where I'm gonna kind of get serious, is... Okay, so the first 4 episodes were directed by Tim Burton, and the other 4 were directed by 2 guys. I'm trying to remember their names, but please comment below to remind me. This is where I ended up feeling a bit conflicted, because on the one hand, I was thinking, you know, I kind of wish this was more of a movie that was just primarily a Tim Burton movie. And the reason why I say that is because I was wondering if I was going to see any differences in the direction that it goes once Tim Burton was not directing the second half of the series. Man, do you feel his absence when he leaves. And I was sort of thinking, well, is it because the way he shot it was a lot more cinematic, which it was, and maybe that's why I said, you know, kind of wished it was a film. And, you know, probably the other directors are more associated with TV. Again, I don't know. I don't know their portfolio by any chance. So yeah, they shot it more like a TV, and he shot it more like a movie. It was very cinematic, and the editing as well. So maybe that's why I wanted it more like a film. But then other times that I just, yeah, the second half, as I said, you really felt his absence. And that kind of made the second half a bit like, oh god, like to me. It's very hard to explain it. I think a lot of it had to do with the writing. Because here's the weird thing, and even Burton has said this pretty much through a lot of his interviews, you know, where he basically says, yeah, a lot of times the main thing that I get criticized for, at least for my movies, is the writing and the story. And I have to admit, when you do put the stories down on paper, it's very hard to explain, you know. And what makes Tim Burton such a masterful director is that he can take what seems like a very, very strange, almost silly idea, and the way he executes it through film language is just incredible. I mean, first time I had ever heard of Edward Scissorhands, I thought it sounded like the stupidest thing ever. I watched it and it became my favourite film of all time. You know, that's just how good of a filmmaker he is, and that's the same with so many of his movies. So obviously this whole story is around, you know, Wednesday getting used to this new school full of outcasts, and there's like this whole mystery going on with the monster, and it sort of connects to the Addams family as well, which I did like. I did like how this whole thing sort of went back to like the Addams family ancestors, so I really liked that touch. And there's a whole episode that's basically a flashback to when Gomez and Morticia were at Nevermore, which again, the casting for the younger, they were on point. Whoever was casting the younger actors, you know, including Child Wednesday, was brilliant. So yeah, they were on point. But I felt like the story was kind of losing a lot of focus in the second half, and obviously they were getting to a point where it's like, okay, we need to focus on this mystery. But what was so good about the first half, so the Tim Burton directed stuff, was they had that main storyline and everything with the mystery and obviously the character of Wednesday and relating to the Addams family, but they were also had these side stories for each episode. So each episode you could watch on their own, and I kind of like it when TV shows do that. You know, it's not one big continuing story and whatever. It's like, no, you can condense them into one. So if you feel like watching, you know, one episode, you know, because of whatever the side plot is, I think that's a really, really good idea. So the first episode was mainly about, you know, obviously Wednesday going to Nevermore, meeting all these new people, and you know, sort of settling in and everything like that. The second episode was all about the Poe Cup and the competition there. The third one was all about Pilgrim World and sort of doing a job for today, and I really sort of gave a bit more of a world building with the town of Jericho, and again it sort of also tied in with the Addams family ancestors as well, so I really liked that. And then the fourth one was all about the Raven, i.e. the school dance that was taking place, which I have to admit, some of these moments in these shows, especially how Wednesday reacts to it and like, you know, whatever, I think I was sort of looking at my teenage self a bit. like there's this moment where you catch like a glimpse of her wardrobe, and I was like, yeah, 80% of that was pretty much my wardrobe when I was pretty much her age. So, or some of the things that she was like, I would never say out loud, but I was like, yeah, that's pretty much what I was thinking at the time. So I was like, wow. And considering this all takes place in a boarding school, which, yeah, as I said, I've been to, I will say the accuracy, that gave me flashbacks. Whether for good or whether for bad, don't know. that's debatable. So as I said, each of the, and I would say the fifth one also does this, because the fifth episode is much more about the past and what happened with Gomez and Morticia. Again, I won't go into spoilers, but you know, it was mainly focused on them, which was great. Episodes 6, 7, and 8, they were more focused on the mystery, which is fine, but all the side plots felt, I didn't really much care for it. I think if they put a little bit more, like, if they balanced it out a little bit, it would have been fine. So I just felt like, I don't know if it was because the showrunners or the writers were just so distracted by the fight, like, oh my god, we have, you know, a famous director, Tim Burton, doing an Addams Family, you know, show, oh my god, but then as soon as, like, he stops directing, it's almost like they lose their focus on what they're doing. Again, I don't know, but that's just what it felt like to me. So, which is such a shame, because like I thought it was going to be very much like Nightmare Before Christmas, where even though he wasn't directing, it, you know, obviously his fingerprints were still on it, and he had a, you know, a sort of, you know, obviously still collaborated and everything like that, you know. But with Nightmare, you could still tell which parts were Henry Selick, because Henry Selick has his own direction style. But obviously, because of Nightmare and the way it was, and the kind of project it was very much, you know, Tim Burton's vision and whatever. And obviously, Henry Selick was much more of the, you know, leading the animation team, and, you know, and obviously the stop motion animation, like, sort of being there on the front almost. So, you know, so I thought it was going to be more like that, but, yeah, it was just kind of like, yeah, as soon as Tim Burton stopped directing, I was like, man, I'm feeling it from, you know, all kinds of levels, and I'm not sure if that was a good thing or not. So, I don't know, maybe at least it kind of reminded me of how good of a filmmaker it was, because the impact that his episodes left and whatever, this is nothing against the other directors. I think it's more from a writing perspective, because as I said, the other two directors clearly know how to direct television. So maybe I felt very conflicted. I was like, maybe I just wish it was just a movie, and maybe I just wish, you know, Tim Burton directed all 8, so it would feel a bit more consistent. I don't know. So I felt very conflicted. So yeah. So I sort of pretty much spent all night kind of wrapping my brain around it to see how I felt about it as a whole and whatever, and I spoke to my friend about it, who was also binge watching it, and we sort of, you know, went back and forth on our opinions and whatever, and I think we kind of ended up on the same level almost, where I think everything that was very much Tim Burton was amazing. Everything else was kind of okay. And I was like, oh, damn, man. I was, yeah, just wish he was a little bit more involved, maybe directed all 8, or maybe if it was just a movie. So, however, as a whole, I still enjoyed it, and I will still be definitely re-watching it on Netflix and everything, because, you know, as I said, it you know, I'll probably be watching the first half a lot more. So, you know, that's probably my bias playing in it, but it was kind of interesting seeing, like, you know, seeing even the tiniest of differences, and maybe, you know, maybe it sort of reminded me of how good a director he was, because, yeah, as soon as he kind of left, but even though it still had his fingerprints and, like, his vision and whatever, and his designs and the way, you know, again, I think it was just the writing. You know, I think, you know, a few bits and tweaks here and there on the dialogue. There were some dialogue moments where I was like, heh. So, yeah, as I said, I felt very conflicted. But I think at the end of the day, I think the best way, I will probably go out and, as my conclusion, I will say how I usually would rate movies, and the way I rate them is, you can check out my letterbox. I'll put a link in the description below if you want to check out my letterbox. I would say, judging it primarily on the Tim Burton directed episodes, I would give that a strong 8 out of 10. The second half, I would probably give a 6 out of 10. So I think overall, I would give Wednesday, the series, a 7 out of 10. Again, I feel like if it was all directed by Tim Burton, or if it was just a movie, I think I would have given it a very strong 8. So, but I can't ignore the second half, because obviously that's what makes the whole series and whatever. But we'll see. I'm just hoping that Tim Burton does another movie, especially with Johnny Depp. Keep that in mind. I want to see those two back together. So, but we'll see. But overall, I still really enjoyed Wednesday. And honestly, now that I think about it, I think that's kind of a trend with the Addams family. I usually think that the worst part about every Addams family thing I've seen is usually the story. But it's still the Addams family, and I still love them and everything like that. And honestly, yeah, I would say out of all the Addams family interpretations I've seen over the years, I think this one is my favourite. Even though it definitely still has its flaws and everything, but again, from a casting, visual, musical, you know, just general more exploration of Wednesday in particular, because obviously Wednesday, let's be honest guys, I think she's everyone's favourite. Maybe. I think she's a lot of people's favourite. She's certainly been my favourite for a very long time. And I think, yeah, this series definitely reminded me why I love her, and I love a bit more of a deeper dive into her as well. So I really, really loved that. So yeah, that's pretty much my opinions on Wednesday, the Netflix series. So what did you guys think? Did you really enjoy it? Did you have some problems with it like I had? Like, did you, you know, are you hoping for season 2, or, you know, I don't know. Love to hear your feedback. If I do go into episodes, I will have to go into spoilers, but I feel as though I get the impression that a lot of people have been binge watching this because they've all come together. So, and it was a very interesting day. I don't think I've ever binged watched. I think the last time I really binged watched something was when I was catching up with Game of Thrones. So, because I think season 6 was coming out, and within 2 months I had like watched the entirety of Game of Thrones up until that point. So, yeah, that was definitely a fun day, because I was like, yeah, sure, hours and hours of Tim Burton stuff, I'm here for it. So, yeah, thank you guys for watching, and hope to see you very soon. Bye!